Iwobi, nicely done, brilliantly done. Bellerin, Walcott, sensational Arsenal goal. Is that a handball? No. Nothing the play can do. Great, what a goal! Arsenal have made it 3-0. Jack Wilshere with an absolute thunderbolt.
Can't believe that. What went wrong? Those you have been waiting on with bated breath for the last 6 minutes. We had a little technical issue. Don't know what went wrong. Why am I looking so red-faced? I haven't even run up and down the stairs 3 times to have a cigarette, which I really wanted. But I didn't have time.
The dangers of not smoking, Darren.
Yes.
You know,
should
be a warning. Should be a warning. Not smoking will turn you into a fucking idiot on the packets.
Blimey, look how red-faced I am. Jesus. This ain't normally me. Welcome to another edition of what we called now
Thursday Night Live.
Thursday Night Live. Welcome to the first edition of Thursday Night Live. What are your thoughts on the new name, gentlemen?
I like it, mate. I'm into it. Preview podcasts are fucking boring as batshit. No one gives a fuck about lineups and predictions. Let's just talk shit.
Liam, did you notice we had a new name?
I have now. No, I mean, it wasn't really a preview anyway, so I guess we tried and we spoke for 10 minutes, I think, about Man City and waffled for an hour on some other stuff.
What, things like El Neni?
Oh, here we go.
For those who just joined us, we're recording this in the UK, just gone 9:30, just after watching a magnificent performance by Arsenal away at Rapid Vienna. Max, did you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch it?
No, but I did get up at 6 and watch the first hour, and then I whizzed through the last 15 minutes. So I got to see all of the important bits. So yeah, I mean,
Liam, did you ditch football training to watch it tonight?
We can't train in the Netherlands. We're quarantined. No. Still managed to miss the first half.
You didn't miss anything. Let me tell you didn't miss anything.
I heard some questionable bookings, which was quite amusing, apparently. But no, I watched the second half, and I mean, entertaining is not the word, but there was goals at least.
Job well done. Always important to win. Did you think? I mean, we don't want to review. I'm not going to go into any detail on tonight's match, but were you surprised how strong the side was that he went out? Put out. I mean, I know Leno probably had to play, and we were short of centre halves, even though we got 9. We were a bit short, but he played quite strong, didn't he? With the new boy Party playing and Saka playing, you know, it was quite a strong team, didn't you think? Liv?
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all. As I just jump in over the top of Liam. Sorry, Liam.
No, you're good. Carry on.
I wasn't surprised at all. If you look at the fixture list, that's the toughest fixture in our fixture list. So away to the hardest team that's in our group, and they proved that it was going to be a difficult game for us. So.
Is that ice going to make a lot of noise tonight? For those of you listening to the podcast, I've come well prepared tonight. After 2 weeks of not drinking, I've gone back with a vengeance. I've even got some props for tonight. I had to think about this because obviously the thing we really want to talk about is obviously the winning goal and the fabulous through ball by Mohamed El Neni, which, according to you two, is not the sort of pass that he ever plays, because he only plays sideways and backwards, never gets up the field, never does anything exciting. Well, surely if that pass had been played by the new £50 million boy, you'd all be creaming your knickers. Can we say that on a podcast? You'd all be wet. You'd all be excited. You'd all be very excited by it. But were you not impressed with that? Tell me I'm wrong, that we've got to look at El Neni with new eyes. He's come back a magnificent player.
Well, no, I mean, it was a great ball. The run from Bellerin was great. Everything was good about it. The ball was fantastic. The run from Bellerin was great. Yeah, I mean, he's a safe passer. I still maintain that, but it was a good ball. Credit
Max, before I come to you on that, I just want to say I just read the report on the BBC Sport website, and they said magnificent Arsenal winner with a terrific ball by Bellerin and a great finish by Aubameyang. That just tells me exactly what people are. They missed the incisive pass that actually broke the defence, and Bellerin played a 6-yard square ball, which is what you say El Neni does all the time, and Aubameyang finished finally from 3 yards out. You know, surely
tap in for Aubameyang. I guess it's that old adage of, you know, the pre-assister, and it's what we talk about Ceballos being more of a pre-assister. I think we sort of came to understand it during the Cazorla time of what a pre-assister was. You know, the ball that breaks the lines for the ball that scores the goal. I thought he was very good. Weirdly enough, Darren, in my notes in the first half, I didn't write many notes on this game because it was 6 a.m. But I did write, not exactly the dynamic midfield partner that Partey may have wanted to play for. So, but in saying that, I actually got a subscription to StatZone. I downloaded a subscription.
Do you know what?
to
I nearly pressed the button on it myself. Yeah.
Because they offered it half. It came through and it got offered at half price. It was like 15 quid for the year or something like that. And I looked at El Neni's stats and they're very good. Now, I always say stats lie. Stats lie because they can hide someone being maybe ineffective while being effective with their passing ratios and stuff like that. But in this case, I looked at it. It was a very solid game from El Neni. He will make up a very useful and important squad player for us this season. And if he continues to improve, and the one thing that you can say about him, the one thing that I think none of us can deny, whether we think he's a bit of a backward, sideways passer or not, is that his trajectory is going upwards. He's playing better under Arteta. He's come back a better player. And if he does get an extended run in the Europa League, and if he does become someone who we can use as squad filler, but very, very capable squad filler, then his role for the year will have absolutely been achieved. You can't have, you know, a team full of starters. That it's not how squads work, and it's not how great squads work. You need guys who are willing and happy to play 10 and 15 and 20 games. And the one thing I will say about El Neni is he appears to be one of these guys who can come in cold and kind of hit the ground running. His game is so uncomplicated that he doesn't seem to need a great amount of momentum behind him.
Gilberto Silva, Mikel Arteta as players. I mean, that's where he is. I just want you to look at him with fresh eyes. You know, we've made up our mind that he's no good. You know, this season, he's started every game that we've won, and he's been dropped for the 2 that we've lost. I rest my case.
All right.
Liam, Darren, anything to add on El
Darren
Neni?
drops the microphone, Darren.
This is our midfield, okay? For those of you listening on the podcast, you can't see, but I'm holding up a bottle of Gordon's gin. Litre bottle. It's Xhaka, yeah? Big, strong. We know what we're going to get from it. Every week it's the same. You know, this is a bog standard gin, yeah? Now, then we've got Danny Ceballos. You can see I'm in for a good evening tonight. I'm now holding up a bottle of Tanqueray. Yeah, sponsors welcome. Okay, it's a little bit more fancy than Xhaka, than Gordon. It's a little bit more fancy, a little bit more expensive, but actually it's a little bit special, does something a little bit more. Then we've got now, it's going to be a very good night tonight. This is Thomas Partey. I'm now holding up a bottle of Tanqueray Special Edition Tanqueray Rangpur. Now, this is Partey. It's fucking expensive. We don't really know what it's going to be like, but we all want to try it, yeah, because it's new and it's different. And then now I've got a bottle of Limehouse Rhubarb and Ginger Gin. This is El Neni, okay, because it's not to everybody's taste, but it still does the fucking job.
We've got to start recording earlier before he goes to the pub, Liam.
Yeah, he said he was on the pub about half an hour before we start. He's on his way home from the pub.
You can definitely tell. You can definitely tell, Darren, as you show the guy who owns the gin bar with 150 gins. You're wide.
There you go.
Extensive.
You've got all of the team there. And look, here's some squad players. So we've got here. There's who's that? That's Cedric Suarez, Joe Willock. See, they all help. But what they really do is water down the quality. Anyway, what should we talk about this week? I would like to just brush on last week. We went to Manchester City. I know this isn't a review show, so I just want to pick out a couple of points. Were you disappointed? Liam, let me start with you. Were you disappointed that we then, obviously with a game plan, we went there to get a 0-0 draw and best case with create 1 or 2 chances and hope one of our strikers puts one away, and it nearly worked. If they hadn't have scored, but they did, you know, and we'd have taken Aubameyang taking his chance, Pepe taking his chance, we might just have snatched a victory there. But were you disappointed, with the fact that we didn't go there with more of a threat to win the game, And B, when we went 1-0 down, and even right down to the last 15 minutes, we didn't change that game plan whatsoever.
Yeah, I came away from it thinking, yeah, I just wish we'd have been a bit more brave, a bit more daring, and just tried to make something happen. And especially in the last 15, where Man City did a good job of killing the game, and we just needed someone to up the tempo, just get some fresh legs on, and just go up a gear and just go for them a little bit more. Okay, we might have gone and conceded a second, maybe a third, or something like that. But I guess you don't know if you don't try. I kind of get why we do it. I get why we're passive, because we have the squad to play passively. But when we go 1-0 down, that's our weakness, because we don't have anyone who can just go up the gear. So I wish we did, and I wish we had more of a go, because I thought maybe we could have. But I kind of get why not at the same time.
Well, Thomas Partey played tonight for 90 minutes. Didn't look like he was rusty at all. Don't you think it was a mistake, Max, maybe in hindsight, not to start Partey at the weekend?
No, not at all, because I don't think that's where the team fell down in the end at all. I think that it was a lack of execution and a lack of efficiency from our front players, and I think that's been a storyline of the big games we played this year. Look, you can't ask someone to be something that they're not. And what we've seen from Mikel Arteta thus far is that he's very organised. He's taken us from being a team that is very, very, very leaky. And, in the past, we would go away and we would look very good for 20 minutes, very good for half an hour, and then lose 3-0, 4-0. And if you go back to our history and our scores against your Cities, even against your Liverpools for that matter, not conceding and staying in the game for long periods of time gives us the best opportunity to be able to get into it and get it done. As far as whether or not I'm upset that we didn't get on the accelerator, yeah, I understood the game plan. I thought that both against Liverpool and against City, it was on the attacking players who didn't execute. And if they take their chance, if they score that goal, it's a different story. And we're all saying, fantastic, what a great performance. But I would also like to see, and I think it's been actually a regular thing that we've seen with Arsenal this year, is that we struggle to actually get out of that passive approach and go up through the gears, like Liam said. And I don't know whether that's not having exciting options off the bench, different options off the bench, different styles of players to come into the team. Because for me, when we make changes, it always seems to be horses for courses for me. There's nothing that we can really bring on that's massively different, that's massively going to ramp us up through the gears. So disappointed, because I thought that there was an opportunity for us to get a point, but not disappointed in the fact that we went out passive. This squad is still littered with average players.
Liam?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a thought on that. I just don't think we're smart enough to be able to go out and express ourselves, because when you do that, you've got to know the game and go, right, okay, I want to go and express myself, but actually, shit, no, now's not the time. But I don't think we've got the players who are smart enough to do it. Aubameyang's a smart player. He knows where to move and where to be on the pitch at any given time. I think Partey seems to be quite a smart player, but we've got too many dunces in Kolasinac. Holding, I don't think is particularly smart. Bellerin struggles going one way or going both directions. I think that's why we play quite passively. And I just don't think we're smart enough to go and express ourselves.
With respect, though, these are the players we've got. He's turned our defence into the 4th best in the Premier League since he started. Stats, it's a stat, but he has tightened us up. He's made ordinary players look better. But you mentioned Kolasinac and Holding, but they weren't playing at the weekend. For me, the fundamental issue, or one of the main issues, something I was really disappointed with watching the Manchester City game, was our so-called captain. Now, I'm a big Arsenal fan, I'm a big Arteta fan, I'm a big Aubameyang fan. But let's be fair, Aubameyang is not a captain. He is not a player that drags people up. I'm very lucky that I was brought up watching Tony Adams as captain as Arsenal. I watched him play his debut and watched pretty much every game. I saw Aubameyang at the end of the game, and this is at the end of the game. This is 10 seconds after the end of the game, and he's chatting with a Manchester City player, and he's laughing his head off. Really laughing, sharing a joke. Tony Adams would have not smiled for a week. None of the players would have smiled for a week. None of the players would have walked off that pitch with a smile on their face. They would have gone back. Most of them would have gone down the pub for 3 days. But there was a steeliness in that side, and a steeliness in some of Arsene Wenger's early teams, where the players' desire to win was the be-all and end-all. Aubameyang laughing and joking after losing a game at Manchester City, completely unacceptable in my book. He should not be captain of Arsenal. Max?
I think, just to play devil's advocate, as you do like to do, Darren, I'll throw some.
Maybe
of it
I'm
back
already.
I'll throw some of it back at you. I think it's, in some ways, there's a bit of folly in comparing generations of people and the expectations of generations of people. I think if you look at that Tony Adams generation, you look at Aubameyang, who would be my generation, then you look at some of the younger guys who would be close to Liam's generation, the way that they view football, it's not as tribal as it used to be. It's not as connected as it used to be. There is more money than there ever was. They are brands more than they've ever been before. And I'm not taking away from the fact that I agree with you that that's not the sort of stuff you want to see from a captain. But I think let's not compare them to, these guys who came from a very specific style and very specific generation, really hard line, tooth and nail. Where I will absolutely agree with you, though, is that for a captain, I expect someone to be vocal. And so I expect their actions. So not looking at necessarily what he did after the game, which is obviously one part, but looking at what he does during the game. I expect a captain to be, when the team is down, when there are opportunities, when he needs to run hard, chase hard, drag the team up and say, follow me, come with me, I'll show you the way. I don't find that Aubameyang does that. And I've had issues with strikers as captains for a long time. I don't like it. It's the wrong part of the pitch to be a captain. I want a captain to be a centre back or like a dominating centre midfielder. I didn't like it when Cech was captain. I thought it was too far away from the play. I was never a great fan of Henry as captain. I didn't think Henry was a fantastic captain either. But you expect more from him. And if we go into his actual performance and his performances this year, I know that he's a streaky player, right? We get that he's a streaky player, that he will not score for 3 or 4 games and then he'll bag a load of goals. But the simple fact of the matter is, since the Charity Shield, he hasn't hit the ground running. He scored a cracker at Fulham, but he hasn't hit the ground running for 3 or 4 games. His work rate appears to be down. His running appears to be down. How often he touches the ball appears to be down, and he's a low-touch player anyway. And I'm just wondering if we're I don't want to use the terminology, but starting to see the weight of the contract already, like that these guys, they get bumped up to these massive wages and then there's expectation. I want to see someone get bumped up to massive wages and play for every penny of it. And I think that if you look at the way that Arteta is playing, we sort of alluded to this before, it's all about, because we are inherently passive, and I'll go to both what Liam said and what you said, but because we are inherently passive, it means that we produce less chances per game because we stay in a structure that's hard to break down. When you're producing less chances per game, it is required of the front three that when those opportunities present, they finish. Now, Aubameyang he gets called offside, but the flag didn't go up until after. He should be finishing that every single day of the week. He bangs it straight at the keeper. Pepe's execution is incredibly poor. Willian has failed to do much so far. And the guy who's shown to be the guy who is most exciting is playing at wing-back. And granted, still creating chances, but playing at wing-back. So we're in a real dichotomy as a club at the moment because we've become solidified. We've become what I would call a deliberate team. We're a very deliberate team. We go out and we have a structure, and we have places to run. And what we're asking for is we're asking to break that structure. But as soon as we break that structure, we take a step back into those old Arsenal teams that were so easy to just pull apart. And just finally, one last thing that people seem to have completely forgotten, right? Football's not golf. It's not darts, right? There is another team. And other teams have players, and Man City have some cracking players. And to only concede 1 goal, I think that's a really good thing for the football club moving forward.
I mean, Long agreed with somebody what you said, agree with, captains, but let's fundamentally get back to the point I'm making. Aubameyang was laughing his head off 30 seconds after, and that's got nothing to do with how tired he is, whether he's not hitting the ground running, whether it's the weight of contract. That is not what I want to see the captain of Arsenal Football Club doing 30 seconds after a final whistle, laughing and joking because it doesn't mean anything. It means a lot to a lot of us. It means a lot to millions of people around the world. It's what we're sitting up at. You're getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're sitting here at 10 o'clock at night to talk about, because we are passionate about our football club. Now, I know we've had players in the past who aren't captain material. We've got players in the past who will flit in and out the side. We've got players who are naturally leaders of men, and some that aren't. That's football. You know, there's a lot of people that do not make leaders of football club. Aubameyang is one of them. He is not a leader. He is not somebody that's going to drag that team up. And the very fact that he's laughing his head off 30 seconds after the final whistle means he doesn't care. He doesn't care as much. And as captain of Arsenal, that has got to change. That's something we really need to do. And Arteta needs to find his next captain very, very quickly. Liam, you got anything to add?
Nothing to add. I mean, I totally agree with everything you just said. I don't think it's a good look at all. Even people of my generation, I care a great deal about football, and you know, even my local Saturday doesn't mean anything, but I'm pissed off when we lose because I wanted to win a game of football. Footballers are naturally competitive, aren't they? We want to win, so why are you laughing when we lost? I don't like the look. I'm not quite as strong in the sense that we should rid him as our captain, because I think if you look at it as a whole, generally I think he's not done too bad. I can't think of any instances where he's really shown me to really be a poor captain, like what he did against Man City.
See, Liam, I don't want to talk over you, but there may not things that make him a poor captain. What you don't realise is when you've got a really good captain. Yeah, I mean, when you've got somebody who's dragging players up, this isn't a criticism of Aubameyang as a man. Aubameyang isn't the sort of natural leader of men. He's a quiet man. He's a bit of an isolationist. He's not the guy who's going to drag people up in the dressing room. He's really not. So we need to address that quickly. Just because he's our best player and our fanciest player, and he's given the captain's armband, because there's very few leaders within that setup that we've got. He's been given it, but now surely we've got to address that. He possibly should have been dropped for our next game. I know he scored a goal tonight after coming on as a substitute, but with his level of performance so far this season, he could well face the being dropped. That's not a criticism of Aubameyang, but there's other players in that side who probably deserve a chance. And when he's just stuck out on the left doing nothing, as Max says, he's a very low-touch player. And when he's a low-touch player who's having less touches than normal, and he's not scoring goals, and he's not creating anything, then what do? You rest that player, you drop him, you put somebody else in, and you try. He's captain of the football club. Makes it even more difficult, doesn't it? Just makes it more difficult to leave him out. He's our leader, and yet he's laughing 30 seconds after the game. I want him to be kicking walls. I want him to be punching doors. I want him to be Max after, with all these broken bone stories of the last few weeks. That's what I want a captain to do. And I know you say you can't talk across generations. And I talk about Tony Adams because I happen to be his age and I watched all of his games. But I could say the same about Patrick Vieira. Patrick Vieira was captain of our club and captain that club with a personality that spread throughout the team.
And you would argue our last good captain, Vieira. I think that we've put the armband on poor players since Vieira. Name me a great captain since Vieira. Cesc was an okay captain, another guy who shouldn't have been given the armband. Like I said, I never thought Henry was a great captain. We gave fucking Gallus the captaincy. I mean, Jesus, whose idea was that? Czech as captain, all these guys as captain. I guess it's about how much weight. And Liam, from a footballing perspective, because you're a coach, it's about how much weight the team actually puts in the captain and whether you have like an overall togetherness and everyone is kind of working together and driving in one direction, or whether you're a team who has that very, very central figure who drags everyone through.
Yeah, so I mean, I was the captain before I was coached this season. I was the captain last, but I'm in the goal. So when something did happen on the pitch, I couldn't get involved. I couldn't go up to the referee and have a word in his ear. I couldn't get the team going apart from shouting from my goal line. So I wanted my captain to be someone who's either centre back and centre midfield, like you alluded to earlier, but someone who also just gets the game. Because it kind of goes a little bit back to what I was saying about having smart players. We don't have many smart players, and the two smart one, not the smartest, but two of the smartest we have is Granit Xhaka and Aubameyang, and we can't really give Xhaka the captain's armband back, given the fan appeal. So the point I'm trying to slowly getting to is we've got to look at how we treat our captains as fans as well, in a sense, because we had whatever you think of him as a footballer, Jacques is a great captain from what I've seen, at least anyway. And at least he gave a shit. Gallas was a stupid choice as a captain, I agree, but he gave a shit at least. Mertesacker, smart player, gave a shit, but we didn't think of him as a quality footballer. So we've got to, I think we as fans as well need to start reevaluating and go, we might not get a great footballer and a great person to be a captain all in one. Who do we pick, the great footballer or the great person?
What do you think of the concept, though, Liam, of back-of-house captains and front-of-house captains? So you have captains who are incredibly good in the dressing room, very good with going and getting young players through, inspiring people, back-of-house when the football's not being played, but then they're not the greatest leaders on the pitch, and you look to more of a collective on the pitch. Because from what I've read, that's why Aubameyang was selected, because he's the guy who gets everyone together. He's the guy who gets everyone having fun.
I think, yeah, you need to have the guy in the back as well, because we see the 90 minutes on the football pitch, but there's a big build up to that. There's a training session throughout the whole week, and you've got to get ready for the game. There's so much preparation. But in-game management is so important that the guy who is behind the scenes has to be able to drive you forward on the pitch as well. And I'm not sure Aubameyang's doing it in the 90 minutes.
A lot of people still argue that even though he doesn't have the captain's armband, that Granit Xhaka is the on-field leader. A lot of people I see say he's the one who's yelling, he's the one who's moving, he's the one who's going up to the referee. So I don't know. In a roundabout way, I guess, what we may actually be saying is that we don't have enough of a leadership group at Arsenal. We don't have, like Liam said, we don't have a core of 4 or 5 players who are all experienced and all give a shit about the club and all driving in the right direction. And then when you do have a very passive leader like Aubameyang, you start to see these cracks and you start to get upset by it. And more than anything, it may just be an indication that this team is still in a rebuilding phase, despite a lot of our fans thinking that, we're going to finish second or we're going to finish third now with Partey. We haven't bought well from a leadership perspective, from a I guess, like playing performance on the pitch perspective. And maybe we need to start looking at players, and hopefully Thomas Partey is one of these players, and it's the start of us doing something new. But we need to start looking at a different style of player who's going to bring a different style of grit and a different style of leadership and a different style of drive to the team.
I think, interesting listening to you talk, but I think the point you're missing is it's not, look, I don't think Aubameyang is captain material. He may organise the Christmas party. He might do those things behind the closed doors. He's our best paid player in the squad anyway, in the playing squad. He's our superstar. Yeah, he's our superstar. I'm sure he was offered the captaincy as a reason for getting him to sign a new contract. He's always been the first name on the team sheet. He's one of those players. The issue for me is that after the game, he isn't taking it seriously. Top quality teams. Think about any team that you can think that's won the Premier League. There's some grit and determination in those sides. And there's a collective winning mentality. We lost at the weekend in a game that we all pretty much thought we would lose because we're playing away against a better side than us. But you want to come off there drained. You want to come off there upset if you've lost. And I didn't see that with the players. And I think this is our biggest issue. We've got a manager now that's tightened us up defensively, but we're not conceding so many goals. But that's our one way we've got against playing against the top sides. And we've seen that we're unable to break down some of the weaker sides. There's some cracks there. There's some issues. And one of them is the mentality of those players.
Yeah, fully agree with everything you say. I guess we've kind of skipped over the point because I think I can speak for all three of us. When we agree, we want the player to give a shit and come off the pitch going, fuck, I wish we'd have done more, or I wish we'd have won that game. We could have got something out of it. Yeah, I'm not sure what there's much else to add on that specific point.
I think one of the things Darren is saying is getting upset as a collective is the feeling that people are leaving the pitch without having emptied the tank. And I think that's something that visceral, visible thing of when you see your players out on their feet and it's the end of the game and there's been 10 minutes to go in the game and they're a goal down and they poured everything into it and run hard and battled hard and the final whistle goes and they all lay down on the floor. We've lost the game. How did we lose that? And I think that's just something from a fan's perspective. I think Darren said at the start, we get up at fuckwit o'clock to watch the game or go to bed late to watch the game. Or as Darren said, as a season ticket holder, 100 quid, 150 quid a game to go and follow the team. And there is an element with Arsenal. And I think it's one of the things that got people a tiny bit offside after that City game, that there seems to be an element within our fan base that they're like, is that everything? Did you put everything into that? And then you compound that with seeing Aubameyang after the game, having a chuckle. Like Darren said, you don't want to see him having a chuckle. It's not a great look for the club. And hopefully a leader like Mikel Arteta will be going up to him and giving him a tap and saying, not what the fans want to see, mate.
Yeah,
that's on the manager.
See, that's the issue. Arteta to go and say to him, that's not what the fans want to see. That doesn't change the fundamental problem that's his nature. He's a smiley, happy-go-lucky guy. Oh, we didn't win this week. Next week we might win. Next week I might score. Oh, should we go out and have a glass of wine? That's my problem. It's not Arteta saying to Aubameyang, you shouldn't do that because the cameras are watching and the fans won't like it. He shouldn't, by his nature, be doing that as captain of Arsenal Football Club. And I know quite often I go on about I'm old and I've watched Arsenal for a long time, but I have. And from 71 to 89, from a kid to a teenager, in the early 20s, Arsenal were rubbish. You two have grown up with Arsenal being a relatively successful side. We've won things, especially Liam. You must have, this last 5 years must be a nightmare for you because you must have grown up watching us win everything. We didn't win anything for years and years and years. And all you cared about when you stood on the terraces at Highbury was that the players gave their all for the badge. Because we weren't going to win the league. We won the odd cup here and there, but we didn't win the league for, 18 years, 19 years. We went and we were mid-table. We finished 16th, 17th, 8th. We were 7th, 9 years running. We were Everton. And all you cared about was the players giving it for the badge. And I know that maybe I haven't come through with the times where modern players are brands and that's all fancy. I just want them, they're earning a lot of money, irrelevant. Footballers have always earned decent money. I want them to care about playing football and care about winning. And I didn't see that in the Manchester City game.
Well, speaking of, play for the badge, play for the name on the front, and they'll remember the name on the back. We avoided it last week. We intentionally avoided it last week, but more things had happened, and it would be remiss of us not to have a small conversation about Ozil. I don't think we need to give it the full 15, 20 minutes because Twitter has flushed the toilet. I lost 65 followers after one post because I put up saying good riddance to a parasite. Hopefully all of his fans follow him out of the club. But I'm interested from your guys' perspective. Darren, offered a way out of the club at the start of the season, told he's not in the manager's plans, stays, the Gunnosaurus post, picks up an £8 million loyalty bonus, is then excluded from the squads as he had been told he was going to be excluded from the squads, and releases this woe is me statement, I'm still going to stay and I'm still going to try. Is this the sort of thing, is this the sort of destabilizing nature that's at the club? The sorts of guys who are meant to be leaders. And how do you feel about it now, knowing that this is now coming to an end? This is the end of the road.
I've got a very, very, very simple solution. He's not in the Europa League squad. He's not in the Premier League squad. We've made Gunnosaurus redundant. Ozil's obviously missing Gunnosaurus. Let him wear the costume. He can then get back on the pitch. He can get back on the pitch. He can be there every week in, week out, earning his money for the rest of the season. No need to pay off the Gunnosaurus original. He can just wear the hat, and that's all I care about.
Liam, as a modern football fan, or as the youngest man in the room, and someone who will have seen Ozil, I assume would have seen Ozil like I did as a huge signing. The way that it's ended the last couple of months that's come to, sort of where do you stand? Or do you feel like a lot of people that the club have mistreated Ozil? Or do you very much feel like this is just another PR stunt, another well-timed release from him to divide the fans again?
It feels like a PR stunt, to be honest. I'm a bit sad in a way because I think on his day several years ago, he was just brilliant. He was a fantastic footballer. So I'm a bit sad that it's come to this, that the situation that we're in from that angle. But given what's happened, it's kind of hard to make a judgment because you only get the snippets. We get told that he doesn't train very well, and then Mertesacker comes out and goes, "Oh, he's training." Then we get told maybe there's personal reasons going on, and we just don't know. And that's the frustrating thing. And I'm just bored of it at this point. And Ozil doesn't really help matter because you just think that he's not in the Europa League squad, he's not in the Premier League squad. Great, conversation over. Then he brings out his Twitter all throughout the game tonight. You just think, for fuck's sake, I just want it to end. Roll on next year. Just want this shit to end now. Just want to be done with it.
Come on, Matt. What do you think?
Look, I made my sentiments clear. I think he's a parasite. I think he's been a parasite. I think he's been dragging down the club for a long time. There's 3 managers who have all seen issues with him. And I think it's to see Mikel Arteta come out and handle it and front up to the media and say it's for a number of different reasons, it's for playing reasons, it's for stylistic reasons. I just think that it's something that needs to come to an end. And I felt like when he didn't get put into the playing rosters, it was going to come to an end. And now we've got this huge explosion on Twitter again. He's being spoken about again, and he's managed to get himself into the limelight again. And I just, who was it? Kenny Ken, who I really like. Follow Kenny Ken on Twitter. He's one of my favorite personalities on Twitter. Kenny Ken put a thing up saying, Dave Seaman was told in his last season that he was going to be third choice keeper. Arsenal legend Dave Seaman was told he was going to be third choice keeper. Didn't kick up a fuss, didn't do anything, still had years left on his contract, I think because he'd done his shoulder for the second time. And then just moves on to City quietly into the night because that's football. That's what happens. Sometimes you sign contracts and they don't work. He's been given ample opportunity to get out of the club. I mean, I know there's all this politicizing about China and all this stuff. And
Max, let me turn it round then. Max, let me ask you this then. Forget Ozil. I mean, I loved watching him play football when he joined the club. I thought he was a terrific footballer, and I'm really sad that he hasn't made it. You know, he's been here a long time. We would have thought we'd have got more from him. Let's look at the role of Mikel Arteta in this. Are you a little bit concerned that the fact that he hasn't been able to handle the big personality of Mesut Ozil and smaller but still large personality of Matteo Guendouzi, is there an issue that should we be a little worried that Mikel Arteta is unable to manage these superstars?
No, because I think it actually goes back to what you were saying earlier on about wanting people to play for the badge, not the name on the back. And I think Matteo Guendouzi very much played for the name on the back, and I think Mesut Ozil very much plays for the name on the back. I don't think either of them have ever shown any aptitude to play for the badge, the name on the front of the shirt.
I don't want to interrupt. Let me just give you a couple of names like Messi, Ronaldo. There's loads. Ibrahimovic. These are players that are superstars. Who's the one at Manchester United? Pogba. These are superstars that play for the name on the back, not the name on the front. Yeah. Those are the top players in world football. If we can't, the question is not, about Ozil. It's about, does our manager, is there a flaw? Is he, maybe just because of his youth and inexperience, but is there a flaw that he cannot handle these big personality players?
No, I think he's trying to change the culture of the team. I think that's his main directive, is to change the culture of the team. And I think these players don't fit into the culture of the team. I don't think they fit into the personality, the drive that he's trying to instill into everyone, to say this is about togetherness, this is about team, this is about we. I can see even if you look at Ainsley Maitland-Niles, how Ainsley Maitland-Niles was kind of cast aside and then allowed, like the door was opened up for him to come back and be part of the team and play hard for the team. That's just the style of manager that Mikel Arteta is. And I said in my tweets, I'm like, look, I support the Arsenal. I've always supported the Arsenal. And no player is bigger than the club. For me, I'm just happy that this is being forced to come to an end. The question that I have for you, Darren, is now in light of the fact that we know this is the end of the road, do you pay him out, whatever's owed, to get him gone, to get it out of the scene, to get him out of Arsenal media, to get him out of the dressing rooms and off the training pitch? Or do you rot him and sit there and say, well, you didn't want to go, so now you can stay and you can sit there? You know, what level of what are you vindictive enough, I'm saying, to actually say sit there and rot now?
I mean, there's a little bit, we should get back over to Liam, but there's a bit here that we should sort of call his bluff when he says he loves the club and he wants to train harder, is to make him. But I don't think that's the right situation. I would absolutely, we've got to pay him whatever. I think there's also a financial reason why we haven't played him, because I'm sure that we keep quoting his 400 grand a week salary or somewhere in that region. We don't know, none of us for sure, but I'm sure it's about half of that plus bonuses. And if he's not anywhere in the match day team or the match day squad, then I'm sure he doesn't get any of those bonuses, and therefore it saves us. I think you gave me the figure last week, Max. I mean, if he's 200 grand a week over the course of a season, 10 million? You know, I mean, there's a reason perhaps we're not playing him. We're not kept in the squad. But yeah, I absolutely do think it's come to, look, if we can't pick him because he's not in any of our squads, then why not just pay him off and let him go?
Make him redundant.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Make him redundant. His job's redundant now. Can we make him redundant?
Maybe Gunnosaurus will reach into his pocket and pay Mesut's wages.
Just reach into his pocket and give him the hat. Let's have a big ceremony. Ozil wants to be part. Honestly, I really thought that. I wrote that down before we started. Ozil to be the new Gunnosaurus.
Yeah. Look, regardless, like him or hate him, I think that most Arsenal fans will be really, really relieved when it's done, when it's over, and the narrative can change.
Let's move on from Ozil. There's some loads of comments we've got in tonight. Thanks a lot of people listening tonight. I'm just going to go to the bottom one because I know he's a particular fan of yours, Max. That's MAA Gunner, who says Ozil is still going to training every day. He loves Ozil. I'm sure he is going to train every day, but I could go for training every day and I wouldn't get picked. You know
I think you'll actually find that's because contractually, if he doesn't go to training, he's in breach of contract, and they could dissolve his contract.
I mean, there's a really good veteran Network 55 has written in, Ozil was not the superstar we hoped for. And I think that's a really valid point, is that he was really terrific, but he was never the player. When we bought him, we were going through Wenger's poor years where we didn't have much money, and he was the one who was going to spark us back into the big time. And he was a good player, but he never sparked us back into the big time. I'm not saying that's his fault. There was not a lot around him, and he was a terrific player, but he's died out, you know, over the last few years. Guna Glasgow, Ozil's not a reject. There was some good comments by Rick, I thought, apart from the one where he said I was talking shit. No,
fuck you, Rick.
Rick, captain needs to be a bit of a mongrel about them. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of where I'm from. There was another one from Rick. It can't be that one. Yeah, who the fuck broke Leno? We'll have a little chat about Leno in a minute after tonight's performance. It's really good, that one, Rick. Thanks for that. Lots of others said hello today. Except I haven't got my glasses on, so I ain't got a fucking clue. That's why I keep putting them up.
Wouldn't matter if he had his glasses on anyway. He's pissed. He can't breathe.
Yeah, that was MAA. What else you want to talk about? I've got on my list. Should we just talk about while it was there? Leno, who the fuck broke Leno? Leno had a bad game tonight. First one in what, 2 years? What's he been there? 2 years?
Yeah, a good couple of years now. It's his third season, right?
It's his third season, yeah.
Yeah.
Leno's been outstanding for 2 seasons and a bit, and today he had a bad game. Aubameyang's had bad games. Even Tony Adams had bad games. You know, I mean, he had a bad game. Should we just put it down to that, or are we a little bit concerned, Liam, that he's not? Do you know, I heard a commentator on that game tonight say, well, it was Martin Keown, I think, saying, oh, did Arsenal sell the wrong goalkeeper? Don't bring that one back up, especially from Mr. Keown.
No, I mean, yeah, mistakes happen, don't they? The only thing I was concerned with is he didn't seem to bloody learn from it. Because, all right, you fuck up the first time. You've had a warning. You've had a goal going against you. Don't do it again. 2 minutes or 5 minutes later, goes and nearly does it again, takes a touch. And then there was a moment with Luiz. He just hammers it at Luiz, I'm thinking, what the fuck are you doing? He's obviously so close to you. That's never going to go past him. Just stick it out with your right foot into the touchline for a throw-in. I was a bit concerned he didn't learn from it. I don't know what got to him, but I'm not majorly concerned otherwise because mistakes happen.
Yeah.
And
I think that,
Max, did he just get all of his mistakes out in one day?
yeah, look, I think you've got to look at it from. Sometimes you have to take the footballer out of the equation and start looking at it from a psychological perspective. And I said this when everyone was waxing lyrical about
Martinez.
About Martinez. You know, if you think that these modern footballers don't read social media, don't watch things, don't understand what's going on in the networks around us, then you're insane. You know, that people think that they don't give a fuck, but you know, especially the young guys, I think they are very absorbed in it. And for me, what you end up having at the moment is you end up having a guy who left feeling that he was unstoppable. Don't forget how good he was in those last couple of weeks before he got injured. He was absolutely unstoppable. And as a keeper, Liam, you'd know that mentality aspect for a keeper, believing it's so important. As soon as you don't believe that you're firm, as soon as you don't believe that you're set in the role, it starts to affect your performances. Then the man can't make a parry. He can't make a save from, you know, Aguero smashing a ball at him at 50 miles an hour from 10 yards out, and everyone jumps on him because he parries it back to the middle on the angle. And and everyone jumps on top of him and says, oh, he's got a history of doing this. And I'm like, it's not like the ball got pinged from 15 yards and he had time to organize himself. It's literally been smashed at him by Aguero. He's got a hand on it. And then someone said, oh, he didn't get up. He should have got up. He shouldn't have slipped over. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, if you keep piling on the guy, two things are going to happen. He's either going to go into his shell, which is what you don't want, or he's going to do what I think he did tonight, and he goes mega arrogant, mega lackadaisical, like I'm number one, starts moving
just tries
the ball
to make
around.
up for it.
Couple of bad touches, maybe even trying to get himself back into that arrogant mode, you know, doing a few things that he shouldn't do. And I just think everyone needs to shut the fuck up about Emi Martinez, put it to bed. Leno's our number one, and I think it's a bad game. Let's go back to the game 2 games ago where he makes 10 saves and everyone's noshing his cock.
Yeah.
And now he makes a couple of errors and all of a sudden he's a piece of shit again.
Yeah, two things on that, Max. Sorry, Liam.
I was just going to say he's a fabulous goalkeeper. We've seen how good he is as a goalkeeper. It goes slightly back into what I said about having smart footballers. I thought the Man City one, I thought was a bit of anticipation. If he anticipates that ball's going to be hit at him, he gets his hands at a better angle and it pushes it out. He doesn't learn from his mistake, and he doesn't learn. How did we go out of the Europa League last season? Fucked about, gave away a corner. That's how we went out of the Europa League. So he just hasn't learned from the mistake. And we know he's got flaws, but you've got to learn from them. So maybe there's a slight thing for me that, is he an intelligent goalkeeper? Maybe not, but he's a bloody good one. His technique is superb.
Right, two things on that. On that save against from Aguero, let's just get real. It was a great save, and he's got enough behind it to push it 14 yards out. I mean, it was a very, very good save.
Maybe the defenders should anticipate a bit better and get to the penalty spot before
I've said it
Sterling
in the WhatsApp group. I'm so unhappy no one was in the middle.
And the second point on tonight, I've got no issue with him at all. I watched his face. They kept having close-ups on his face. If Hitler had won the war, this is what all people would be. He's blonde, he's big, he's powerful, he's got blue eyes, and he couldn't give a toss about anything. He is just strong. Mentally
just choose down on the chewing gum.
He does not care. He is supremely confident. The last keeper we had like that was Jens Lehmann, who had a mistake in him and was also an outstanding goalkeeper who never learned from his mistakes. Always.
I wonder how long this is going to last for. You know, every time a keeper makes a mistake, we're going to go talk about Emi. You know, there's an article of Aston Villa 4 clean sheets. So we're going to keep talking about Emi. I'm like, just fucking Arsenal fans of the world, give yourselves an uppercut.
Yeah. Talking about goalkeepers, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about from the weekend. How does Jordan Pickford, where do we start with this? VAR, goalkeepers, referees. How does Jordan Pickford assault someone like you wouldn't believe? And it's missed by the referee who's 10 yards away. Fair enough. You know, he only gets to see it once. And then we're all watching it on television. I'm watching. and thinking, oh Jesus, that's a penalty and he's going to get sent off. I mean, not even I'm the most biased man in the world when it comes to Arsenal, but this is a game that doesn't involve our sides, and I'm thinking that's a definite penalty and a sending off. And then of course the offside's given, so you think, oh okay, it's just a sending off. And yet he gets away with nothing, not even a booking. Comments, anyone?
There's no excuses. Pickford's technique 1v1 is absolutely horrendous.
Hang on, Liam. I've got to take exception here. He has just taken out Liverpool's best player.
Yeah, that's why, because his technique is horrendous.
That is superb forethought.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough.
Everton were top of the league going into that game, and he's just destroyed their main rival's best player. Tell me you didn't mean it.
All right, fair enough on that point. Now he
did
does
it
again.
Dele Alli as well, didn't he? So
he did it at the end of the game as well. I can't remember who it was or the exact incident, but he comes out with his feet and nearly crops another one of their players. It was hilarious, but woeful as a goalkeeper myself. Quite how he's not sent off is beyond me. There's absolutely no excuses, even without VAR. No more to say on it. It's just awful.
It's Max, for me, it's intent. I think he knew what he was doing.
When I looked at it, I don't think that he had the intent of fucking putting him out for the season. I think he
he had the intent
of flattening him. Yeah. And I just think more than anything, it points to the farcical nature of VAR. Again, you know, I could do an entire podcast on the farcical nature of VAR and how they cannot see things and the excuses that they throw up and the money that's been spent on it. It's a red card. It's a red card all day. It's probably the reddest. What is the most red shade of red? It's Ferrari red. It's fucking redder than red.
It's awful.
Yeah, and it's red from. It should be red from the referee before it goes to VAR. And I think it just shows that the referees now as well have decided that they would rather not have that heat. They would rather put it in the hands of VAR. We've seen that in other sports. We see it in rugby league. We've had the video ref forever in rugby league. And now all the refs are like, I don't want to send you off because I'll get heat on the pitch, but I'll wait for the video ref. I'll wait for VAR to send you off. So it's just shit.
Well, you said see red. You made me think something else that really irritated me from our game at the weekend against Manchester City. Manchester City are playing in sky blue and we play in dark blue.
Yeah.
What is going on in our world?
Because the shorts were both white.
Honestly, red and blue. Honestly, I just cannot understand. That's just nonsense. I've watched football like all of you for many, many years. Arsenal played in red against Manchester City with white shorts for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
you know, there is absolutely no reason why we're not wearing our red kit except for marketing. And sometimes Arsenal, you wonder why we're losing some faith. You wonder why some of our fans don't have the same morals and the same. You know, we always talk about Arsenal as being a classy club and Arsenal being a leader in this and Arsenal being, you know, we have standards and we have disciplines and we have all these things. Arteta talks about it all the time. Wenger talks about it. We want to be proud of our club. Well, just understand Arsenal Football Club. We play in red and white. We play in red and white. And when we are playing against somebody who also plays in red, we have a change kit. Yellow for many, many years. I'm wearing it proudly tonight. When we are playing against a team in blue, please wear the colours that we are. We are Arsenal. We are red and white. It annoys the fuck out of me that we wear a dark blue kit against a team playing in blue.
I remember playing Basel at home in the Champions League a few years ago. It was the only Champions League I've been to, and I still didn't see us in red and white because we had to wear our away kit at home because I think the shorts were both white or some bollocks.
Liam, you just froze briefly. We heard you, but you just froze briefly.
It was a wonderful freeze.
Oh, again. Is this becoming a bit of a signature, isn't it?
Yeah, Liam.
I blame my internet.
Mind you, talking about kits, I saw Manchester United, was it Tuesday night, Wednesday night? Did you see their kit that they played in? It's
zebra.
like a zebra kit.
I thought that was a joke when it got released. I genuinely thought that. Yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of the third kits are horrid. And I'm with Darren. I want to see Arsenal play in red and white or yellow and blue. Those are the two things that I deem to be acceptable But there's so much money in kits now, and there's so much money in the third kit, and it will have been. I'd say there'll be a contractual agreement that you have to play a certain amount of things and a certain amount of kits and a certain amount of televised games, major televised games. It's just all about the big money now in the game, isn't it? You know, and maybe once we move to a European Super League, which I've been saying for ages is coming, ages and ages is coming. Maybe when we move to a European Super League, teams won't even have names anymore. It won't be Manchester United anymore. It'll be like the Red Devil Reds or some bollocks like that.
Well, Max, you live in, and Liam, you both live in different countries where you watch football slightly differently to us in the UK. I mean, it's fair, you know, as an Arsenal fan, I go to watch Arsenal. We don't get access to the live TV as much as you two guys do. I forgot what I was going to say now. What are we talking about? The European Super League is, for me, something that's always been talked about, but I always think that it's actually something that will detract. Arsenal playing Valencia in a mid-table European League clash is just going to be just as dull as Arsenal watching Stoke. I don't see the appeal of it. I mean, obviously, you will get to see Manchester United's or your top sides play each other. Blimey, did I say Manchester United? I must have been drinking too much. You know, your top European sides, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Juventus might play each other, and they may be big games. But we see that anyway in the Champions League. If there was a Super League, if it actually happened, I don't see the appeal. But in your countries where you have fans who support multiple clubs and support players, is it something that's more appealing than watching the Premier League?
I think Max, you want to take this one?
Yeah, me and Tez have seen this come and go. So as mad rugby league fans in the early 90s, we saw a Super League form. We saw it fracture into different competitions, and all we saw was that it drained the talent from both competitions. So it ended up just meaning that the talent was completely spread. And I don't think that we would have to have a fear that Arsenal would move into a Super League, because to go into a Super League, it's going to attract the teams who don't want any sort of financial fair play, who want to be able to buy up the best, pay the most money. Is it going to detract? Yeah. For a lot of people out there who are saying, oh, no, take the top 4 teams out and we'll have more of an old-fashioned Premier League. I don't think that's the case. If you take the best 44 players or 44 of the best players in the world out of a league, it's going to detract out of the league. As far as the actual European Super League, look, I think there's a lot of global fans who aren't as tribal as what we are. We're all Englishmen, even though we're on different sides of the world. We're all Englishmen, and we buy very strongly into, I've got a history, I've got family who are Arsenal fans, and my family is from that Woolwich area in South London originally. And I think that there's a lot of global fans who this will appeal to, because they're not necessarily as connected to the location. They're not as connected as to the country. They don't understand London. They haven't lived there. They haven't lived in England to be able to understand the different parts of it. So from that perspective, I think the global fan will be loving it. And you're seeing it on Twitter. I mean, I definitely see it, that there's this divide when you look at some of the American guys who follow us. You know, they're very, very pro Super League. They're like, this would be amazing. Why wouldn't I want to see Arsenal play Juventus? Why wouldn't I want to see Arsenal play Real Madrid? Why wouldn't I want to see Arsenal play AC Milan? Because they get bored by the wet Wednesday at Stoke. Some of my favorite games are those like die-hard, like killer games. I think about like our bunny teams of the past, Blackburns and Boltons and Stokes. That's part of what makes the Premier League exciting. But as the modernization of football happens and we move to, you know, away from being really tribal and away from being really local in our football, from a global perspective, I think it makes sense from a cash perspective that they want to do it, and that's why it's being forced. I'll fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's the end for me, Liam. I mean, would we even be in it? You got to say top 4, or would we actually be? Would we actually be in it?
Yeah, I think we possibly would be, because no matter where we are in the league at the moment, we're still up there with Man United as possibly 2 of the top 3 teams in all of the UK. And the Cronkies do have a fair bit of money to spend, and maybe they would if they get a more American model. I'm not convinced by it, but I wonder if they actually might. I mean, I'm with you guys. It was only a couple of years ago I was actually in the UK going to Arsenal games. I want to to have those games. Bolton away, coming from 2 goals down and being with 10 men to win 3-2. One of my favourite Arsenal games of history. We wouldn't get that anymore.
Reading
Well,
Arsenal,
we would.
Arsenal 6-5 with the
7-5.
Walcott 7-5 with the Walcott hat trick. Like
Brilliant game.
Like
Can
those
we
are
have
the
one
games that stick in my
podcast
mind.
without mentioning Theo Walcott? Just one podcast. That's all I ask.
Let's
Just
get it in there.
Did you watch him make his debut for Southampton at the weekend?
Gets an assist, doesn't he?
Yep.
Fuck all. hid for 90 minutes. Hasn't improved. He'll mark my words, in 3 months' time, he'll be on the bench for Southampton.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Liam, do you not think that we'll just go from being a middle of the top end club in the Premier League with the way that we spend and the way that the wages would be? And you can only imagine in a Super League, you'd be bringing players in on double money. You're like a £300,000 a week contract in a Super League that has no financial restrictions. And all of these teams and the massive amount of commercial money and the massive amount of televised money that would go into it, you would imagine wages would blow out to, $500,000 wouldn't be something unseen. Even £1 million a year wouldn't be something unseen. Do you not think that the way the club is, the trajectory is, we should be really fearful of going into a Super League because we don't compete financially in the Premier League?
Quite possibly, but I look at it as what the Kroenkes have done with the LA Rams in their new stadium. They're not afraid. They don't seem to be afraid to put their money in, their hands in their pockets and fish out a lot of money for their American things. So if they're seeing an opportunity here to take us into an Americanized style, I wonder if they would put their hands in their pockets, because they're very wealthy people, and we could easily compete if they put their hand in their pockets.
I mean, let's be frank here. It doesn't work for us, we're saying, as UK fans, but it's the same. What's the Spanish league going to be like without Real Madrid and Barcelona?
Fucked.
What's the Premier League going to be like without Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, and ourselves? It's not going to be good for anyone. Do you imagine a Leicester City or a Wolverhampton Wanderers, or think of another small side, Tottenham Hotspur?
Let's get that in there. That was scripted.
If they finally won the league after, when did Spurs win it? I'm 55 and Spurs haven't won it in my lifetime.
1961,
62, I think Spurs last won the league. So if they were to win it in 2024, when there was no, I'm not saying they'll be in the European Super League, but was there any credit to win that if you didn't have your top 4 or 5 clubs in there? It would ruin every league in Europe. And if
our Champions League becomes the Europa League, and the top 4, let's say Arsenal stayed in it, the top 4 clubs become Arsenal, Everton, Leicester, and the shit down and the shit down the road. It's for me, it's the death of football. But I will say this: I wouldn't care if Arsenal were playing in the Championship. I wouldn't care if Arsenal were playing in the second division. I'd be an Arsenal supporter and I'd be an Arsenal fan. I'd find a way of watching it. I do really worry that this is the death of football as we know it. This is the death of football that we grew up with. But there was a piece that Tim Stillman wrote saying that football is going to die if something like this doesn't happen, because it's an unsustainable model. COVID is going to kill off however many football clubs, however many bottom end football clubs. And that it may be a necessary evil. Look, I'm not financially across it all to have sat there and read what the commercial agreements would be and what the understanding would be. The one thing I do know for sure, having watched it, having seen it happen to my second favorite sport in the world, is that division of leagues doing the same thing does nothing good. It's taken us until 5 years ago in rugby league, from 1995, 96, when Super League happened. It's taken us until 2020 for the game to come back full circle. So I don't know. Personally,
I don't think it will happen. I just don't think it will happen. I don't think there's, it's a short-term vision. I don't think it's got any longevity. If you have a European Super League with no promotion, no relegation, it will get stale very, very quickly. And Arsenal away to Bolton on a Wednesday night becomes Valencia away to Borussia Dortmund on a Wednesday night. It isn't that attractive. The top games will be attractive when you have your El Clasico, when you have your Bayern Munich's playing, your Manchester City is, then we will tune in to watch. But would you tune in to watch Ajax play? Actually, Ajax is a bad example because I quite like to watch Ajax. But would you tune in to watch Valencia play?
The
PSV,
division,
yeah.
you're right, Darren. The division will just exist in a different league. You know, as long as there's division in how much money people have, the wealthy will still buy the best players and will still put the most wages up and will still. You're exactly right. Arsenal Bolton just becomes Bayern Valencia, and it just becomes them fucking whacking them in a different league.
Right.
Also,
sorry, Liam. Go on. Off you go, Liam.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say also, it's fun at first to see Juventus Real Madrid every other week and Bayern versus Arsenal, but actually that novelty will probably wear off quite quickly because we see it so often. And I quite like that we see it once a season. Or who are we going to get? Are we going to get Barca, Real, Juventus?
Chelsea.
I think that's kind of I find that part of the fun with the Champions League. I don't want to see it every single week because you kind of ruin the novelty of it.
And the different styles as well, guys. Like when you're playing a team, when an English team is playing a Spanish team, one of the reasons why people tune into Champions League football is to watch different styles. As soon as the Super League forms, it will create a style of its own. And you're not going to have the tribalism. You're not going to have the English game coming up against the Spanish game or the Italian tactical game coming up against, the expansive wing play of a German team. It's just going to all mold into one. So I think it's one of these things that looks fantastic on paper. And probably for the first season, while it's still connected to its roots of where it came from, the first couple of seasons, it would maybe look like a good product. But in time, it's just going to become a muddled form of football.
Yeah.
Very deep, Max, very deep. Right, let's move on. We've done our time. Just a couple of things. There's a question there on the Wasp kit that Veteran Network 55 has sent in a message. I've seen the masks in that kit being worn. Where can I get one? Arsenal.com. That's the only thing. It's the first thing that comes up if you go into the Arsenal shop is a face mask with the Arsenal Wasp kit design. I have one on order. I'll have it for next week's show. So, yeah, that's where you can get those. I also agree with it's just never going to happen. Ever since I can remember there's going to be a European Super League, the Premier League is too big, too powerful, too strong, too financially good at the moment, I think, for there to be a breakaway. We're now called Thursday Night Live, but it is still a bit of a preview show in theory. We're playing Leicester at the weekend. Anything you want to talk about? It's at home, isn't it? I think we're at home to Leicester. Not that that makes any difference. Leicester without Vardy. Leicester have lost 2 of their last 3 games. Fancy our chances? Anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, we usually have a pretty good record with Leicester at home. I think we've got to get back to winning ways. I think we quite probably will.
I think it's more than like there's a desire for us to get back to winning ways. I've felt this season that we're competing still in a league that's just underneath the top 2 or the top 3 teams. And that mini league is about us putting ourselves in a position where we may be capable of snatching 4th, or at least we get direct entry back into Europa League for next year. And these games against the Evertons and the Leicesters and the Wolves, if they do what they did last year, and the Tottenhams, who are direct competitors for that lower part of the Champions League positions, these games are do or die. Okay, I just hope that we don't go passive.
Max, I agree with lots of what you said, but when you look at Liverpool, who have already dropped more points this year than they did at the start of last year, they've just lost Van Dijk through long-term injury. Their goalkeeper's out missing. You look at Manchester City, who've already got beaten a couple of times this year in the first 5 games. Should we really are you not being the Aubameyang of this podcast and you're just laughing and saying, well, we're not going to win, but we're just going to enjoy ourselves and we've got to win the second league?
No,
is there not a bit of us?
Not at all. Not at all. Look, all those games are there to be won. And if teams are there to be beaten, then we need to go there and we need to try and beat them. All I'm saying is that to take the right size steps, the more normal size steps, which is to get us from a team that finished 8th last season and get us up into, I'm even saying possibly into the bottom of the top 4, which is where I think we could possibly land. I'm just saying that these games are the games that we have to go out and make sure that we win, as opposed to games against Man City and against Liverpool, where it looks like we've gone out there to maybe nick a point and not to lose. I just think it's a different mentality. I want to see us to go out there and put our foot on the throats of those teams. If we don't go out and put our foot on the throats of those style teams, I think it's starting to send a really, really bad example through the club, and people will start to get on Arteta. That's not what we want.
So there's just something else I forgot about. I was going to go on and talk about Leicester, but did I? I'm sure I did with you, Max. Did you? Yeah, Liam, didn't I put it on our WhatsApp group? Did you see the bet I had in the week this week?
Killer.
Yes, you did. Spurs 3-0 up. Those you listening, and especially those you earlier said I was talking shit. Maybe I was about El Neni. In fact, I've just had a drink of El Neni, and it's fucking horrible. When Spurs were 3-0 up, you say I talk shit. Now I talk about me as the oracle of football. When Spurs were 3-0 up at the weekend, I put a bet on West Ham drawing 3-3 at the odds of 70-1. Am I a genius or not?
Very much. Tezza would be proud of you, the big punter that he is.
Come on. Where did I pull that one out of? I just, it's obviously my superior football knowledge.
Definitely not.
He's going to win the Ballon d'Or this year.
Just Spurs being predictably Spursy, isn't it?
Well, it was on last week. The reason I mentioned it, I brought it up, not just because I want to show off that I had a very successful betting week, but I said last week, should we be scared of Spurs? That was one of our topics. Spurs, should we be scared? And you both sort of laughed it off. And I said, well, they've got one of the best attacking lineups in the country. And for 15 minutes, they were outstanding. And I was thinking, Jesus, yes, we should be scared. But
we did say that they were leaky. We did pull out a number of players, centre backs, midfielders, that they were weak in different areas. And it proves that, attack isn't everything, and they're going to be able to turn it on. And we said with the front three that they've got, if they do turn it on, they all show up. There's going to be goals there. But, as we've seen at Arsenal, it's more than what you have in the assets up top. It's a full team.
I'm just actually trying to look. How did they get on tonight? Do you know? They were 2-0 up when we started the podcast.
Should have put a bet on.
I forgot they were even playing. Let's have a check.
Yes, Celtic are
3-0.
losing.
They won 3-0.
Bow creates Tottenham's second is the headline. Fucking, do you know? If people like El Neni as much as they like Gareth Bale, then he would be a superstar. That is the headline. BBC News. Bow, can you see that? Bow creates Tottenham second. That's the headline of the Tottenham game. Wow. Well, on that point, I don't think there's much else to say. Gentlemen, you ready to call it an evening?
All good. Call it a morning. Go get some coffee in me.
I'm going to have a chin. Liam, anything else to add? Anything that's been biting at you for the last 3 or 4 days?
No, I can't see there's anything. I'm sure there'll be more that comes up, won't there? It's only Arsenal way.
Okay, Max, anything to add before we disappear?
No, mate. Up the Arsenal. Fuck Mesut Ozil.
All right. Well, let's just say this is the Thursday Night Live on the Clock End Talk franchise. I don't know if franchise is the right word. Is that makes it sound too big rather than Tez in his garage, doesn't it? But don't forget the guys did a review show. Did they do a review show yesterday? I haven't listened yet. I've been working. Yeah, the review show came out. Yeah, it came out yesterday. So if you haven't listened to that, listen to the review show. Max, you can always find on the Arse Brothers podcast, whatever it's called. It's very entertaining.
You'll get it by the end of this season. You'll get it right eventually.
Yeah, I haven't listened to you this week either. I've been very busy this week. And Liam, people can find you at Gron in Guna. Yeah,
there we go.
You can find me at Deli Guna, where you can listen to my knowledge about top Ballon d'Or winner Mohamed El Neni, how to pick 70-1 betting odds. See, look, I'm just an oracle of knowledge. Thanks for joining us, and we will be back possibly after today. I'm not so sure. We'll be back at this time next week. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.